and Chairman of the Disciplinary Committee. On my left, Dr. Kenny, Secretary General of BAM. I think by now all of you would have already read from the media that the badminton players Lee Zii Jia and Goh Jin Wei have withdrawn from the National Training Center BAM. The BAM Council had a special meeting recently on Monday, 17 January 2022, to deliberate on this matter of Lee and Goh's matter and to formulate our responses to the same. We are mandated by the BM Council to make this press conference. Now let me start with Lee Zii Jia. Now before I proceed, I must caution myself that there could be legal issues that may arise subsequent to this. Therefore, I have to be careful with how I word myself as well. Now, as far as Lee Zii Jia is concerned, we received the resignation letter from Lee Zii Jia on 11 January 2022. Since his resignation letter, many concerted efforts were made by us through several informal discussions with Lee Zii Jia to reconsider his decision. However, was not successful. Lee Zii Jia stood by his decision and he gave the following reasons. Firstly, he said that he cannot stand the pressure of being in the national squad. And secondly, he said that the lifestyle in the Academy Badminton Malaysia is a regimented lifestyle, and he found it very difficult. Now, during one of the discussions with the committee, Zii Jia submitted fresh terms to continue his career with BAM. Following a thorough deliberation, BAM reached the decision to reject those terms. Now, what are those terms that he wanted? Firstly, he wanted to have his own team of coaches and support service. Secondly, to plan his own tournaments. And thirdly, to have his own sponsors. Now, obviously, we found that these requirements are impossible to be fulfilled and unrealistic. In recognition of his talents, however, and also the fact that Lee Zii Jia has been nurtured by BIM for the past 11 years, since he was 13 years old. And BIM still offered him several lucrative, substantial incentives that include monetary benefits. However, Lee Zii Jia has already made up his mind, and he did not want to reconsider his decision. Now, we're also mindful of the fact that Lee Zii Jia, being a national player who has recently won the All England Championship, it is quite difficult, very disappointing for BIM to lose him. However, since he already made up his mind, we have to respond to it. And I'm sure you're all aware that the position of any player with BIM is this: all of these players with BIM are contracted with BIM. And the reason why they are contracted with BIM is because there are various implications behind it. To train and nurture these players, we require funds. And these funds comes from grants and a lot from sponsors. Now, the world over, it is no contract, no sponsors will come, because you want to be assured that whoever the players that are nurtured will remain with the sports body, will remain with the association and grow. So with that in mind, and also as per the terms of his contract, after much difficult deliberation, BIM had to reach a decision to not register Lee Zii Jia for any international tournaments for a period of 2 years, effective from 18 January 2022. Well, talking through the mask is very difficult. Okay, now let's go to Goh Jin Wei. With regards to Goh Jin Wei, with regards to Goh Jin Wei, it's a little bit dramatic. Now, if you remember, those who've been following the sports scene, you remember that Goh Jin Wei earlier, she had intended to resign based on health reasons. And she expressed the same thing to BIM. And BIM spoke with her at great length and persuaded her to reconsider her position, and we even offered her various medical assistance if she required, and so on. However, on September 3rd, Jin Wei told us that she wanted to quit the sports altogether and said that her health does not permit. So she submitted her resignation letter on September 11. On December 23rd, Jin Wei and Penang DA Honorary Secretary Leong Kin Weng met BM Secretary General Datuk Kenny to discuss the possibility of returning to BM as her health was improving. And this fact, BM took it with great interest. So Datuk Kenny informed her of BM's decision to assist her, as she was talented. And again, the issue of BM having nurtured her from the age of 14. So the meeting was positive, and Jin Wei said that she was seriously considering rejoining the national team, but to only play the mixed doubles due to a health condition. Unfortunately, however, she was indecisive, and to our surprise, on 2nd January this year, she announced through a YouTube channel that she wanted to play independently. And therefore, we take the position that Goh Jin Wei also does not want to be part of the National Training Center in BAM, and we reached a decision not to register her for any international tournaments for a period of 2 years, effective 31st October 2022. So the summary of it all, 2021 in the past. So the summary of it all is this. The summary is that both of these players, they have major difficulty in deciding what to do, but if they had already decided to leave the association, despite them having spoken to them, raised various issues, including counter-offers, including also the fact that this is national service, and if you don't leave, we can't do anything about it. Nevertheless, BIM, being an institution, has its own process. Now, if you recall, there was a previous player also, To Iwe, if you remember, yeah? She also wanted to leave BIM, and she was also not allowed to play for 2 years, no registration 2 years. But she returned, and she came back, and BIM embraced with open arms. So it is yet to be seen whether or not Goh Jin Wei and also Lee Zii Jia will be inspired, motivated, moved to come back to the fold of BIM to play under our auspices, and then we will cross the bridge when we come to it. Okay, that's as far as our statement is concerned. If you have any questions, clarifications rather, please state your name and which media you represent. Yes, Jega. Okay. Right. Now what it means is, all players, yeah, Jega, all players are contracted. And in their contract, we have clause 7. Clause 7 of the contract allows BAM to mete out several punitive measures in the event they want to leave the National Training Center. Now, one thing was I must clarify is this. There's a lot of reporting that Zii Jia resigned, Jinwei resigned. There's no such thing as resignation in the scheme of things. In the scheme of BAM, we have a National Training Center. When you say National Training Center, you're talking about a lot of investments, you're talking about sports science, you're talking about physiotherapy, you're talking about the entire ecosystem. You're talking about BAM being the center where we pluck out young people, put them in this ecosystem, and the only choice that you have is to withdraw. You can withdraw from the national training system, you can. That is provided for under the contract. But if you do so, there are various punitive measures, among which is not to register for the next 2 years. Jaga, does that answer your question? Yeah, that's what it means. They are not registered. If they are playing in tournaments, it requires the registration of BAM as a governing body in Malaysia, then we say that since you're not interested to begin with, we are not registering you. Any other clarifications? Yes.
Fabian.
Yes, Fabian. Fabian, right?
Fabian.
Fabian, huh?
Yep, NFT.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't know Fabian?
Fabian from NST. So, if Zii Jia is going to be banned, BHTV is also going to be banned from, not going to be using them for tournaments. How does it work when it comes with BWF? Because BWF also has their own ruling, has BAM referred to all those countries, like if they go to a different country, for example, what's the period of time they have to spend outside of the country, and then BWF council can also.
Okay. Right, I think the part of BWF you'll answer, but let me answer one part of it first. Now, first of all, we have to get the terminology correct, Fabian. I think we keep using the word ban, that's not correct. We're not banning anybody, we're not registering them. It's a big, both legal and factual difference between the two. We're not registering them. Why is BAM not registering? Because it is ironical for BAM to register someone who doesn't want to be with BAM. And you're only not registering for 2 years. Okay, as to BWF, Dr. Kiri?
I'm not speaking for BWF. Okay, basically, I think there are rules in terms of BWF, because BWF is the governing body for badminton for the world. And BWF has member association. In BWF, they don't call countries, they call member association. So BN is a member association, badminton of Thailand is member association, okay, and so forth, alright? So for BWF, if any sanctioned event sanctioned by BWF, the registration must come from member association only. So basically, if a Malaysian player or a BN player or any Malaysian player who wants to play in any BWF sanctioned tournament, he has to be registered by BM. That's all. Full stop. Of course, you are asking if a player moves to another country, whether they can play in another country. I think we need to really look into the BWF constitution. But I just try. I may be wrong. I stand to be corrected. But I think if a Malaysian player wants to play in another country, I think they need to get clearance from BM. I think so. But I stand corrected. Okay.
There are regulations.
Yeah, there are regulations basically. Thank you.
Any further clarifications? Yes.
Betul sekali anda memberi soal ini. Betul sekali. Jadi Zii Jia tidak akan didaftarkan dalam tempoh 2 tahun. Tahun ini cukup penting, ada substansi
Keadaan dia sekarang ialah di mana Zii Jia dan juga Jinwei tidak akan didaftar selama 2 tahun. Tetapi itu adalah hari ini. Andai kata mereka membuat rayuan, dan mereka masih boleh buat rayuan seperti mana yang telah berlaku pada pemain sebelum ini. So jika rayuan itu dibuat, dan rayuan itu berdasarkan terma-terma yang munasabah sebagai contoh, dan juga mengambil kira kepentingan negara, maka kemungkinan besar mereka dapat main dalam sukan-sukan tersebut. Tapi kalau sebaliknya lah. Jadi kita akan lihat apakah yang akan berlaku. Tapi pada peringkat ini masih ada ruang dan peluang untuk mereka kembali berkhidmat kepada negara. I like that question you're asking, because that is actually the feeling of almost all the council members, especially the president. Now, obviously, we feel extremely sad. If you know the story of badminton in this country, in the last few years, it was always Dato' Lee Chong Wei, and there we are trying very hard to build new talent. And here we have a sprouting, budding talent in the name of Lee Zii Jia and a few others. Now, when you have such a talent which produce, and we want them to be inspiring examples to other players as well. So when this thing happens, of course, there's a lot of things that BAM as a governing body has got to do, and the disappointment is there, but we've got to move on. Now, we have to ensure that the existing players are not discouraged by this. We have to ensure that the sponsors are not discouraged by this, because we require the sponsorships. Because I think we all know this, that BAM is much bigger than any single player. It is in national interest. And therefore, the quest to train world-class leaders must go on beyond this. So this could be a temporary setback on one hand. On the other hand, this could be a very inspiring and encouraging moment for us to realize that there are other people who can step into the shoes of Lee Zii Jia and the rest. So we cannot just look at the negative side of things, As I say, the water fills its own level, kan? Jaga?
Satu saya ada soalan lagi.
Ya.
Saya rasa masih ramai yang terkeliru. Jadi dalam tempoh 2 tahun ni, adakah Zii Jia masih attach dengan BM ataupun dia withdraw daripada pasukan kebangsaan, boleh pergi ke mana-mana dan perlu bayar apa saja, ataupun macam mana?
Okey, sebenarnya tak ada kekeliruan langsung. Dia senang. 13 tahun tak? 13 tahun kamu dengan BAM. Datang ke tahun yang ke-13, kamu kata kamu nak withdraw, kamu nak tarik diri daripada pusat latihan negara, National Training Center. Kamu tarik diri. Jadi bila kamu tarik diri, apa yang badan itu boleh buat? Kamu tarik diri tau. Jadi bila kamu tarik diri, tu badan tu kata okeylah, kamu tarik diri, jadi kami tak dapat daftar kamu. Dan kita boleh tentukan tempoh masa, tapi cuma kita ambil tempoh masa yang pernah kami buat selama 2 tahun. Jadi itu bermakna selama 2 tahun, untuk hari ini, selama 2 tahun BAM tidak akan daftar Lee Zii Jia untuk apa-apa permainan yang di mana pendaftaran oleh BAM perlu. Faham ya? Dan itu tertakluk kepada proses rayuan. Jika dia rayu, itu cerita lain lah.
Zii Jia mempunyai tempoh berapa masa untuk rayuan tersebut?
In the next few months, kan? Besok boleh. Tak ada masalah. Okey, dalam aspek itu saya kena akui ya. Dalam aspek itu saya kena akui bahawa BAM ni compassionate sikit. Sebab dia kena balance lah. Dia kena balance di antara keperluan kepribadian pemain dan juga kepentingan negara. Jadi kita kena balance. Kita taklah katakan you kena rayu dalam masa seminggu. Tak. Faham ya?
Cepat mungkin betul.
Yalah, secepat mungkin lah. Ya. Saya takkan lepas Thomas Cup nak minta kan.
Hi, hello.
Yes.
Vipnesh from Pertama. So, is that BAM indirectly forcing Zii Jia to stay with BAM?
Okay. Now, this question of is BAM indirectly forcing, I really don't know how to answer that, other than saying that my girlfriend leaves me and I tell her that if you stay with me, you'll be happy. I don't know what else to say lah. I mean, look at this way lah. Zii Jia made up his own decision to leave. Alright? So why do you, explain your question, I don't understand. Why do you say it's forcing? In which aspect? Where is he? In which aspect
you don't have any choice whether to be with BM and continue to play or sit out for 2 years?
He's got to sit out for 2 years. Tamat muka dia. See, very simple. Zii Jia left BAM. There are consequences to him and there are consequences to BAM. So he left BAM. BAM said, okay, you leave BAM for the next 2 years. We will not register you for tournaments where BAM registration is required. Do you understand? Di mana perlunya BAM mendaftar, BAM takkan mendaftar lah selama whatever tournaments you want, it doesn't matter. But the most important thing is you must understand that it is not compulsion. If I can guess your mind, why you're saying compelled, because you must understand, yeah, when any player leaves BAM, what are the consequences to BAM? And when we say the consequences to BAM, you must understand, and number one is consequence to the national interest. I mean, we are nurturing players for the purposes of representing Malaysia, that's number one. Number two, what about the financial consequences? Now, when you have a player leaving, a big player leaving, obviously sponsors will get jittery. When sponsors get jittery, that means funds are less coming in. When less funds are coming in, what is the ability to develop new players? So in that sense, the ramification is manifold. That's something that you must understand. I'm not blaming Zii Jia, we're not blaming anybody. We're saying that in life, you make a choice, there are consequences. And BAM, as far as the governing body is concerned, and still wanting to nurture new players, we will have to move on. That is the message.
From the start, have the BM conveyed this decision to Zii Jia, and how do you react to it?
Okay, Sekian.
We have actually informed him through replying the letter to his resignation letter, 1. 2, because as you know, Zii Jia is also from Kedah, so we have also informed Kedah BA. So this is the process that we have to do, we have to take, because we are an institution, right? We are an organization, so we have to, as much as we can, we have to follow the processes, and this is the processes that we have taken. But to respond whether how does Zii Jia respond, I think it's difficult for me to respond. I think I cannot be speaking on behalf of him. But what I can say now is that I think we are also we are an organization. We need to follow certain rules. Whether we like it or not, we have to follow the rules. But at the same time, as what Dato' Sri said, we are also compassionate. There are ways that we can resolve this, and if we can resolve it as soon as possible, that will be good. Yep. Thank you.
Jadi, sebelum ni, sebenarnya message itu ialah akhir kalam. Akhirnya BAM tidak mahu perkara seperti ini berlaku. Kerana ia akan mengganggu sedikit sebanyak kita punya usaha-usaha untuk membangunkan badminton di Malaysia. Tetapi mau tidak mau, bila ini berlaku, kita terpaksa melangkah ke hadapan dan mitigate apa-apa damages yang kita boleh. Okay, soal last 2 questions. Yeah. Okay. You want to answer? Okay.
Whether it will bring it to chaos.
Paris. I don't know.
I think these are all very speculative questions, alright? But what I can say is, I just want to echo or reiterate what Dato' Sri said. Of course, when the top player leaves, it will affect us in terms of our development, in terms of our program, and also in terms of finance. So when every player, top player that we nurture, we build, and if they leave, it will, of course, sponsor will also start to be jittery, and perhaps even the funding for development will be reduced. So that will cause the collapse of the entire ecosystem. I can say whether Olympic 24 preparation. Of course, we will still hope to produce our target and to achieve our target in Project 2024 lah. Yeah, thank you.
Datuk, Mat dari TV3.
Mat.
Tadi Datuk cakap putusan ini memberi impak pada Zii Jia, bukan saja Zii Jia tetapi BHM. Dua-duanya ada kesan sendiri. Tapi bukankah ia membelakangi kepentingan negara ketika Zii Jia itu adalah orang kata our best player dan dia akan terlibat nanti 10 tahun tanpa sebarang perjuangan. Dia akan bertanggungjawab ke atas.
Okey. Saya tanya tu soalan yang masalah timbul, jadi terpaksa kan. Jadi perkaranya lah, adakah yang memberi kesan? Yang memberi kesan, sudah tentu. Sebab kalau ada, semua okey. Kalau tak ada, tak apa-apa okey. Jadi pokoknya lah, akhirnya kita kena juga buat sesuatu yang to mitigate the damages. Satu. Yang keduanya, sama ada perkara itu membelakangi kepentingan negara. Saya ada jawapan, tapi saya risau nak jawab sebab benda ni mungkin jadi undang-undang. Faham, saya tak nak buat tuduhan apa-apa Zii Jia dan sebagainya lah. Tapi cuma yang saya dapat mengatakan ialah kalau pemain-pemain kita yang kita bina bersama kita, ia akan menguntungkan negara, ia akan memenuhi keperluan kepentingan negara. Faham lah.
Tapi mungkin Zii Jia buat keputusan itu atas kepentingan dia juga dan untuk dia nak contribute pada negara, mungkin pada tahu apa pada BHM tentang
cukup mudah jawab soalan tu kan. Kalau tadi kita kembali balik kepada apakah itu BAM, apakah yang BAM ada, ekosistem yang dia ada, macam-macam pelbagai kemudahan-kemudahan yang dia ada. Jadi all those facilities are for the purposes of nurturing a great player. You understand? So I mean, to me, I don't see any other alternative outside. So my mind is totally boggled if someone says they're leaving such a system, such an institution, which has got all the facilities somewhere else, and you say that's for national interest. That's physics to me lah.
Hi, Datuk Sri. I'm Shakira from Harian. Datuk Sri, so maksudnya BM mendeliver surat peletakan jawatan dari Lee Zii Jia, dan adakah Lee Zii Jia masih lagi boleh training di BM?
Okay, dia satu yang pertamanya ialah Lee Zii Jia menarik diri. Dia bukan letak jawatan, dia menarik diri daripada National Training Center. Dah ada pun National Training Center, dia dah berlatih kat situ, ada coaches, ada segala-galanya. So dia tarik diri. Itu satu. Yang keduanya, soalan adalah adakah dia boleh train kan? Memang kita punya place is open to public, so there's certain process that you got to follow. Takkan kita nak, kalau orang kita bagi kan, takkan somebody will have we train, you won't allow to come back. Of course, there's no issue. Sekejap you must understand, this is all about process, not about punishing anybody ya. Bunyi macam hukuman, tapi bukan nak hukum sesiapa, walaupun yang terhukum adalah negara dan BAM. Itu pandangan kami lah. Yes. Yeah. All right. Right. You're asking a very relevant question because at the end of the day, in many aspects of life, it's all about perceptions. Yeah. So there's a perception that when a player, you've brought you up to a certain level and then you win a certain medal and then it goes out, then this may leave the perception that other players can do the same. Now we got to seriously ask this question. Those who are interested in badminton and responsible citizens in this country got to ask this question. Do we want to commercialize sports to an extent where national interest takes a back seat to narrow personal commercial interest? I mean, that's where we're heading now. So we have to find that balance between the two. And that, I hope BM is doing the right thing. You know. So to answer the second part of the question is that we have to ensure that the other players are motivated instead of demotivated by what's happening. That's again our challenge as well. You know, we have to shift the entire mindset. Okay, there are many angles. It's a good question again. There are many things that we're going to do, and we already, the council already decided to sit down again to look at various measures to prevent such a thing happening or to manage such a thing happening. But one of the things, of course, as a lawyer, I'm telling you is we have to relook at our contract so that the contract, while taking care of the interests of the players, it also safeguards national interest because a lot of money is invested in it, a lot of time is invested in it, a lot of aspirations is invested in it as well. No. We're not going to walk down that road. But to now, yeah. But I understand if you look at the press statement earlier that the council, some members of the council, Dr. Kenny included, had already approached Lee Zii Jia and had various discussions. It is not fair. Okay, any other clarifications?
Asal from Penama TV.
Yeah, no.
Macam dulu jika kita tahu Rosjashin pernah membayar papasan untuk bergerak secara profesional, so adakah harga yang boleh dibayar di Zii Jia selepas tindakan dia melakukan? Adakah papasan yang boleh dibayar di Zii Jia?
No, now we are just talking about the ban.
Yeah, we just talking about ban.
Thank you. Now, coming back to your question, Pranama, is it? Okay. No, we have not come to that stage yet. Presently, we have replied to his letter. If there is anything further, then the council will look into it.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the contract and how the contract, while it looks after the players, also safeguard national interest.
Yep.
Maybe you can mention some of the specifics in the contract. Like I understand that a player needs to be before 29 years old, or what are the major tournaments that you need to compete in before.
Alamak, that good lah. Lawyer, I'm not going to give a legal lecture here lah. Basically, when I say revisit the contract means we're going to look at a contract where there are terms which are fair to the players, at the same time, protects the national interest, protects the sponsors, protects all those investment that's done, that kind of a general principle thing. Don't be naughty. Okay. Yes. Okay. Dr. Kenny will answer the question.
Okay. Quite an interesting question. Okay. Jam sebenarnya dalam kita punya review tahunan memang kita dah bercadang nak menggugurkan Jam lah, alright. Tetapi Jam asked that he wants to resign first, alright. So he has done the proper process. Okay, dia melalui proses dan kebetulan dia juga layak pada the World Championship yang baru-baru ni. And dengan itu kita pun memberi dia untuk bermain secara independen lah. Dan mengikut dia pun ada pernah wakil, adalah dia punya sumbangan dia lah, alright, yang kita rasa dah setimpal dengan pelaburan kita. So actually tu kadang-kadang BM ni kita ni we are very kind because these children, these players like our children, So bila dia minta, I resign lah, don't send me lah. I said, we said okay, can, no problem, alright. So we hope you understand this. We are always trying to help the players actually, alright. We do as best as we can to help the players. At the end of the day, we want the best for the players. Alright, thank you.
Soalan seterusnya, tentu sih sebab kita tahu trend, bukan trend, semakin banyak player keluar dari BM. Tapi apa langkah yang BM boleh buat untuk elak perkara ini berlaku so that dia tak jadi sampai tahap ini. Thank you.
Adam, saya pun nak tahu berapa ramai lagi yang you tahu nak keluar daripada BM.
Bukan, maksudnya sebelum ni lah, beberapa tahun lepas.
Oh, ya ke?
Banyak tak ada.
Boleh bagi contoh sikit tak?
Okey, contoh start dengan Vision Pure, Exul Lee, then after that tagging grup-grup dan adik bukan diguguhkan yang
Okay, alright. Adam, I think you tahulah kenapa pemain-pemain ni mereka dah menyumbang pada negara. Macam Peng Sun, dia dah menang pingat perak untuk Malaysia kan di kejohanan Olimpik. Dan pemain-pemain ni pun dah sampai peringkat umur yang boleh dikatakan mereka towards the end of their career lah, right? So they want to play outside and they have contributed quite a lot. So these players, we have actually let them go, right? I believe masa tu dia orang keluar, saya belum kat BM, but I believe BM did it in good faith lah for these players, alright, for them to go out and play independently, alright. At the end of the day, they have contributed enough, alright. Thank you. I think we have mentioned it in the. I think earlier we have mentioned it. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Kenny, if I could just try to get you to divulge a little bit from when Zii Jia came and tendered his resignation. So you mentioned, or rather, Dr. Zii Jia mentioned, there were two reasons that he gave. One was pressure, and then the other one was regimented lifestyle. If you could you explain what he mean by that? Conversation had taken place between the both of you, and from what Zii Jia had announced to the world pretty much, he seemed to have his own target as well that he wanted to break into the top 5. So was there some other pressure that you think BM might have imposed on him, or that he felt otherwise that led to him to resign or withdrawing rather?
Alright, now before I pass to Dr. Kenny to answer, being the lawyer that I am, I want to clarify something first. Those two reasons that I mentioned earlier, that Lee Zii just said, those things were said orally. In his letter was something else altogether. Okay, so that, let's get that part clear. This is a good thing you asked. The rest I leave it to Dr. Kenny.
But actually, I don't quite understand his question. Actually, he's trying to ask whether how do I feel when he mentioned those points, is it?
Yeah, what was the points behind those reasons?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So because now this is just the two reasons given to us, but of course that is just a line, you see. What was the reason behind that 2 pointers specifically? If we could understand.
I mean, if I was to choose to answer that question of yours, I would say that you're asking me to speculate as to what his mind was thinking.
Yeah.
Which is going to be very difficult. Which is going to be very difficult for me to do unless you specify your questions more specifically, that I can address it equally specifically.
I'm not asking you to speculate on behalf. So he mentioned two things.
Two reasons.
Right. But was it just that full stop? I'm pressured.
Yeah, I'm just saying that in his letter of resignation, he did not mention any reasons other than the fact that we are very happy, thank you very much. Yeah. There's this kind of nice. Then orally, when we approached him, talked to him to say, look, rethink lah, you've been with us for a long time, but you got a great future, blah blah blah. So he said, no, two things. This as I was informed. Huh? Number one is academy too regimental lah, the lifestyle. Too regimental, cannot. Second one is I'm under pressure. So these are the two reasons given orally. You understand? Huh? So that's the best. That was it. I mean, anything else we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Orang lain tak ada.
I'm quite sure when Zii Jia tendered his letter, I'm quite sure BHTV must have also sat down with him and spoken to him about all these legal things that couldn't take place. Did he at any point mention that, okay, I'm still sticking by my decision and probably going to take BHTV for
Actually, no lah. They didn't call me there. So they did not speak anything legal. They were all talking about, when I was briefed, the feeling I had was they were sitting down talking to father and son. Hey, why lah, when you go? Stay lah, it's good for your future, what? Those kind of things. Mostly because I wasn't there. So there's nothing legal was discussed.
Like that.
No, there was nothing legal was discussed. Nothing.
That's what.
So it was all like, why you want to go? What do you want? What can you do for you? Don't worry.
Friendly chat.
As a very friendly chat, that kind of things. There was no legal, nothing. Maybe that's why they deliberately didn't bring me along. That's a joke. Yes. Yeah.
You were talking about, we are actually potential loss of sponsorships and things like that. What if, is there any chance if Zii could come up with maybe 5 million, 10 million of compensation? Would we let him go?
I don't think we want to even think about that. Because that's never in our head. All we're concerned about is we want to be fair to those who trusted BAM. We want to be fair to the existing players that we need to nurture and build. We also want to be fair to the sponsors. No, I don't think we want to even go along those lines. I think cukup kan? Any last? All right. If there are no further, can I say there are no further clarifications? Okay, none. I want to thank all of you for making time. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done, huh? Okay.